What is up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're here at Lake Julian. We're talking about the trail. And this video, it's gonna kind of be a comparison. I'm thinking about bagging the trail. You can come out and say it, but I think it might fill a different slot than I was giving it credit for before, which is why now I think I might be able to bag it and still be okay with it. And hopefully I'll be able to come to some conclusions. It flies so good when I throw it. I think I was thrown off by the flight numbers, and so I expected it to fly one way, and so I thought it would fill a different slot in my bag. But we're going to test out the trail against two other discs. One is a 10 speed and one is a 12 speed, both of which are in my bag. And I want to see if the trail has a chance of being one of my go-to distance drivers. So the trail has the flight numbers 10, 5, -1, 2. I was thinking 10 speed, right? So my PD, this is my flippy PD, so I can hit this on a hyzer, it'll stand up, maybe get a little bit of a drift depending on if it's a headwind or a tailwind, and then have a reliable finish. The trail for me though flies more like an Essence, more like a 10 speed or even an 11 speed Essence. For me, it's more like a -2, 1. So I can hit it on hyzer. It's always going to stand up to flat. Sometimes it'll get a drift, but it doesn't really have the same type of aggressive finish that the PD does. In steps the 12 speed. This is the Fission time lapse. I love the Fission time lapse. It's amazing. It goes so far, but it is slightly inconsistent for me. So the trail has a chance of kicking not the PD out of the bag, but the Fission time lapse. I'm going to show you, or I'm going to try to show what I'm talking about. I have two different trails to throw. One is slightly used, one is brand new. I'm going to start off though with the PD. The reason that I haven't bagged the trail so far, here's the PD. Stand up and the fade. Right at the base of the tree. Versus the Fission time lapse. Now let's throw the two trails, and I want to see the distance comparison because this is a slightly uphill run up, so it's going to give me a better comparison as to can I throw the 10 speed as far as I can throw the time lapse. That was more like the PD. Now a new trail. Okay, now let's go pick those up. Let's see if the new trail or the Fission time lapse went further. The trail definitely goes further than that PD. Not too much further because that's one of my furthest flying PDs. But how reliable is it when compared to the time lapse? That's the main thing I'm worried about, because the time lapse is great. And if I can hit it right, it goes amazing. But something about that one, it's just a little inconsistent. So I want a little bit more consistency, and the trail might give that to me. Now, one of the main things that I do with the Fission time lapse that I haven't noticed that I can do as well with the trail is the little flip up forehands. So I'm gonna throw them all on forehand. Same order. PD first. Consistency with my distance driver forehand. I don't know if it's the fission plastic, because I have Neutron time lapses that I can throw about the same. So I don't think it's the fission plastic. I think it might be that it's just I don't know, the fission one feels like it has a lower parting line than a Neutron time lapse. So I think it has a very similar stability to the trail. On both throws so far, this disc has gone the furthest out of all of them. So we're gonna switch up the order. Trail's gonna throw first. It's gonna be another forehand. This hole's 375 feet. Let's see if we can get it close. So I wanna put some power on him and see what happens. Okay, now the fission time lapse. And now the PD. So out of all of them, the PD is not going to go as far. We already know that. It's not designed to be a flip-up driver. It's designed to be an overstable power driver, hence the name PD. But it still gets amazingly far for what it is. That being said, I don't think I'm gonna get my max distance rip with that PD. It's gonna come more from the Enigma or the time lapse, or these trails are going so far. One more drive. I'm gonna throw all 4 of them off of 18. And I wanna see the actual distance measure. And I wanna see if I can control the angle well enough. Because I think that's the main difference between the time lapse and the trail for me, is it's easier for me to get the trail, to get the distance, because it's easier for me to control the angle because it's a slightly smaller rim versus the time lapse, which can go further, but likelihood probably not as high because it's a flippy 12-speed distance driver. And those can be touchy, so you have to really be able to control it, and that's the main issue I'm having with the fission time lapse. So one more drive. Let's see if the trail has a chance, because if one trail or both trails outdrive the time lapse, I mean, the yellow trail has outdriven the time lapse every single throw so far. So I don't know if that's saying something, but it seems like it's saying something. So we know this disc, it's not going anywhere. So it's gonna be our wind test. It feels like it's a headwind, but it might change. Gonna put this one out there. Gonna try to make the Mando with all of these. So this one is probably not gonna go as far because I still have to get it left, versus the other 3, which have a chance to kind of flip up to kind of drift straight past the Mando. This one is just a little too stable for that, but it's a really good wind test disc. Okay, so it's a little heady, but not very much wind at all. Now we're going with the trail that I know. Versus the trail that I don't know that well. This one's a little bit heavier. It's 3 grams heavier. And now the time lapse. Yeah, I think as far as shot shapes are concerned, fission time lapse and Neutron Trail are going to be very similar. And if you have a ton of angle control over your hyzer release, you're probably going to like the Fission time-lapse a little bit more. If you have trouble nailing very specific angles on hyzer, I think you're going to like the Neutron Trail a little bit more. And I don't have a ton of control over the precise angles of hyzer I release on. It's kind of a little bit of hyzer, a lot of hyzer, or no hyzer. So I think the Trail just seems to fit me a little bit better. It's just a little bit easier for me to control the angle. So Fission time-lapse is great, and it's not going anywhere. It's just not going back in my bag. I am actually going to be putting a Neutron Trail in my bag, believe it or not. As crazy as it sounds for me to say that. But yeah, they're all great discs. If you enjoy content like this, please make sure to like the video. If you want to see new stuff, make sure to comment that down below. And please make sure to subscribe. It helps you guys out with these subscriber-only giveaways, and it definitely helps me out as well. And until next time, see you out on the course.